And here we go, Digital Adele back with another Hoops Profile Beyond the Backboard podcast for you. This is the College to the Pros segment with my co-host, Matt Hanifan. How are you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I am outstanding, man. There's been so much basketball on, so much to talk about. I cannot wait to jump into it, talk about this rookie ladder update, talk some college basketball, Mississippi State. Whew! And get away from all the Jimmy Butler talk in Miami Heatland that we contribute to on 5 Reasons Sports Network. Before we get into it, let the people know where they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
You can find me at NPH_824_ on Twitter. Really got to change that at some point. You can find me at out.hoops.com, mountainwestconnection.com, vendettasportsmedia.com. You can find me on playback.tv/5RSN. Where Adele, myself, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network do talk about the Miami Heat as well as watch the Miami Heat. But yeah, man, let's jump right into it.
Absolutely. Let's jump right into it. I'm just trying to get our stuff tweeted out here and posted on social media. So you cut that short as I was doing that, but I appreciate you. No, let's talk this rookie ladder. I'm really excited to talk this rookie ladder. We're going to go in reverse order. We do this a couple of times a month. We take a look at Steve Ashburner's NBA rookie ladder on NBA.com. At number 10, a name I haven't actually talked about, or we haven't talked about on this channel in quite a while. Before I do, I wanted to just give our heartfelt thoughts and prayers to the people out in Los Angeles, California, who are dealing with those wildfires, because that is horrific, scary, and just terrible, terrible circumstance for any of the citizens of California. So, big thoughts and prayers out to them. But we haven't talked about this guy from the Los Angeles Lakers in a very long time. His name is Dalton Knecht at number 10, averaging 9.8 points per game, 3.3 rebounds per game, 1 assist per game, up from, well, he was number 10 last week. He stays at number 10. What are your thoughts on Dalton Knecht?
I know he has had a little bit of like an up and down season. And obviously, I mean, the Lakers have too. I'm trying to pull up his stats recently, see if there is like anything that like jumps out off the page. Because I mean, I know like there was at one point during the beginning of the season where you could probably say he was like a top 5 rookie.
Right.
But I think he's cooled off in the sense that like I don't think he's taking or making as many threes as he was at the beginning of the season. I could be very wrong with that. I'm looking at it now. He hasn't shot the ball well at all. Like,
right.
Since the start of December, he's shooting just 20% from deep.
Yeah.
He's taking 3.5 threes per game, 6.5 field goals per game, shooting that at a 42% clip. 7.1 points, 3.3 rebounds, 2.5 defensive rebounds. Like I think like because he was in the starting lineup or at least there was like a decent portion once upon entering the starting lineup.
Right.
He was going off for 25, 30, like each night, albeit a smaller sample. But lately he hasn't been quite as productive. Like it feels like his production has been pretty inconsistent lately.
Yeah, for sure. No, he's definitely been, inconsistent, and we kind of knew that coming out that he was going to be that way because in college he's an excellent scorer. He has sneaky athleticism. When I mean sneaky, not the typical he can barely jump, but he'll dunk a little bit for a guy of his complexion. He will dunk on your head off of tip dunks, but he's a very linear athlete. He doesn't have a lot of left and right movement into his game. He's got a little bit of it, but not a lot. So we knew in the NBA it was going to be a difficult proposition for him to get to the cup and finish consistently at this level. And a lot of that shows, like when you look at his, field goal percentage, he's shooting like 46% from the field, which is actually really good for a guard. But his 3-point percentage is like a 35%, which he could be a 40% 3-point percentage shooter. He has that capability. He has that tool in his bag. One of the things that I'd like him to do a little bit more is get to the free throw line. But again, that just comes from him being a linear athlete. He doesn't get into the lane very well. So I would like to see him get to the line, get that free throw rate up. He shoots and averages right now about 1 free throw per game. Not nearly good enough. But that's part of learning the NBA game, getting better. I'd also like to see him get on the glass a little bit more for his size. He averages like 3 rebounds per game. So up and down makes a lot of sense to me that, that's what would occur. Hey, what's up, Bronx Joker? Welcome, man. Let's talk about who is number 9 on the rookie ladder. One of your favorites. I know you'll be grinning from ear to ear. He was not ranked last week. And that is Ryan Dunn of the Phoenix Suns. 6.8 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, 0.9 assists. Does not begin to tell the story of why Ryan Dunn should be on the rookie ladder. His defense is just outstanding. For him to play the role and the size of the role he's played this season so early just speaks to how well he can defend, because he defends some of the best players in the league every single night.
Yeah.
His shooting, on the other hand.
The shooting hasn't been great since the very start.
He deceived us. We thought it was all fixed. We thought that he was going to be the one guy that could break out of the Matas Thybulle mold. It was all defense and no offense in college. But he's down to about 30%. He's almost to 29. He's like 30.2. He's like a whisker. A whisker above the 20s. But, yeah, I was going to say he finishes in the lane, but Dalton Connect's finishing better than him in the lane, too. He's at about 43%, Ryan Dunn. But again, that doesn't tell the story. That's not why he's on the rookie ladder. Let me ask you this question and pose this to you. Should Ryan Dunn be number 9 or should he be number 10? Because personally, I think I'd put Connect over Dunn at this point.
I would have Dunn at 9.
Okay.
Because again, I think it obviously 2 different teams, 2 different contexts, but
right,
what he can do defensively on a night-to-night basis and how he can impact a game, I just think is greater than Connect when Connect isn't making shots, and he's not making shots, and he hasn't made shots for 2 months or a month and a half, whatever it is. And so that's where it's I think there's a greater grand impact. It's sometimes not always noticeable, when you pull up a stat sheet or whatever, but
right,
he can be a guy that can be sometimes a screen and roll threat. There's times where the multi-positional versatility that he has defensively, I think is something that's very important for them. And Phoenix is in a free fall right now.
They are.
But I think he's been one of their few bright spots this season, because again, I don't think even at this point, I don't think many people expected him to be this far along, and just in terms of being a rotation player.
Yes.
Even if the shooting it has dipped pretty considerably outside of the first 5 or 10 games, but I still think he's been a decent positive for them.
Right.
And so that's why I would have him at 9.
Okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I thought I'd pose that question to you because you like him, and I put you in a difficult spot, but I get it. Number 8, we got Bub Carrington for the Washington Wizards, and truly, he's been way better than anticipated this season. Drafted at the 14th overall pick. He's number 8 on the rookie ladder, 9.3 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game. But that doesn't tell the story about Bud Carrington because of how much they put on his plate this early in terms of ball handling and running the show when Poole is out and Brogdon's out because they're always hurt. I've been really pleased what I've seen from Bub Carrington, and I keep saying this and I'll continue to say it. They need to move on from Jordan Poole, even though they just signed him, because it is stunting the growth of Bub as well as Bilal Coulibaly. When Poole doesn't play, Coulibaly looks freer. Him and Bub play very well together off each other. When Poole is on the court, he is just chucking shots, man. But what are your thoughts on Bub Carrington so far?
To me, he should be higher on this list now.
We're going to get there.
Like, De Silva's my guy, but I think that, I know he's done a really good job filling in, amid the injuries of Wagner and Paulo. Paulo's coming back on tomorrow. We're recording this on Thursday, January 9th. He's coming back tomorrow. But I just feel like Bub has been consistently more impactful than De Silva has. I also think he's probably, to an extent, I think he's been better than Ricochet. Maybe that's just because he's in a larger role with more opportunity, but
that's it.
I just think he's been better.
So that's it. Your overall premise is correct. He has been better, but it's because he has had a larger role and more minutes. Now that De Silva's getting minutes, his last 5 games, notwithstanding the one putrid game that he had 21 points against Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. He had 25 against Toronto. And then he's had 6 and 8 against Utah and the Knicks, respectively. So he's coming on strong. And I think Steve, for the purposes of content, has him higher. I would agree with you.
Considering this is a weekly ladder,
right?
I guess that makes some sense.
Right.
If you're just looking at it from a week-to-week basis, I can rationalize that. But I just think Bub's had a better year than Tristan.
I agree with that overall. And I don't even think he references it as a weekly ladder. I think that's just us trying to justify his rankings. What I was going to say is I just think for content purposes, he moved him up because he's having a good week. But I definitely agree with you. Yeah. Bub Carrington should definitely be higher on this list.
He publishes these every week, though, no?
What's up?
I think he does this once a week now.
He does, but I'm saying he doesn't preface it as a weekly ladder where just this week we're looking at. It just seems like it's a fluid ladder throughout the year.
Right, but No, I see what you mean.
So at number 6, leapfrogging De Silva, we have Zachary Ricochet, the number 1 overall pick. He continues to play a role for them, but he's still figuring out the NBA game. Almost 11 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, 1.2 assists per game. What have you seen from Zachary Ricochet?
To me, you and I have talked about this, but I think he just looks more comfortable.
Yeah,
in his role with Atlanta. To me, he's putting the ball on the deck more. He's not shooting the ball well, but he's
at all
he's, to me, he's more confident, I think, in his shot.
Right.
And so again, to me, and I think I like what I've seen from him. There's some defensive flashes and whatnot. And he's just big, big and lanky. But he just looks more comfortable in what they're trying to and how they're their system, their ecosystem that they have over there in Atlanta. And so I could see why he has him 6 that right around.
He's been solid. He's been just solid.
There's some nights where there's inconsistencies in the sense where there's some nights where he's making a few threes, and then there's other nights where he's 1 of 9. It's just oh, okay. And I know I'm pulling those numbers out of thin air. I don't know if those are that's actually anything that he's shot this year, but you get what I mean.
I do. And his effective field goal percentage is actually 49.3%. It's actually not as terrible as the, raw numbers suggest. But Ricochet, he's solid. I think he's going to continue to figure it out. And they are playing meaningful basketball as well. So for him to continue to get 25 plus minutes or so per night is definitely something to take into account. Next at number 5, Stephon Castle. Steve's funny, man. He's just references right up front. He averages 25 minutes a game. The most important stat is that he plays. Since coming off the bench, that's dipped down to 19 minutes in January. He's still getting shots up, though. 14 and a half shots per game. Second behind only Zachary Richer. Almost the same stats as Richer, except, and here's the big part. Here is the big part, and this is one of the most underrated aspects of Stephon Castle's game, and we didn't even get to the defensive stuff he does. He averages almost 4 assists per game already.
Yeah.
In like 20 minutes. That facilitating ability, playmaking ability is only going to get better as he continues to get more nuanced and learn the NBA game. And I think that ultimately by the end of the year, I think he's going to be the rookie of the year still. I still do. But he's going to have to continue to play. He's going to have to shoot better because he's been shooting some terrible percentages lately, and it's really dragging his overall percentages down. But the defensive stuff can't be understated because he guards the best players every night when he's on the floor. And it doesn't matter if it's a point guard. It doesn't matter if it's a guard, a wing. He'll switch on the bigs. That dude guards everybody other than centers. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
It's like, to me, it's also, he's really strong for someone. Like, he may not look the strongest. I feel like it's somewhat deceptive to an extent.
Right.
But he's really strong. Like, he has a really strong core, and he doesn't get pushed off the spots all that easily. And it helps that he's like big. He's like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
And he has that kind of like hard nosed, like bulldog mentality. And so, no, I like him a lot. Yeah, he's going to need to improve the shooting, but I think that's like the one knock on his game that I can think of at this instant. Is the shooting, and I think that will come with time. Who knows? But I think that will come with time.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. And let's keep moving on the rookie ladder. We have number 4, Zach Edey. I was surprised that he's averaging almost 8 rebounds per game because early in the season, he would get like none. Like he was getting blanked. I like almost want to fact check Steve. Like they're saying he's averaging like 10 and a half points, 8 rebounds per game, and over a block per game. That would justify his number 4 ranking. Do you, Matt Hanifan, believe Zach Edey's corralled 8 rebounds per game?
Well, it helps when you get like almost 20 against Toronto. Like that helps boost your numbers a little bit, right?
Those are facts. Let's take a look here. Zach Edey in 2025 over the last 4 games. So this is the thing with Zach Edey. Now, this is making all the sense. I'm glad you mentioned those 20 rebounds. Because he'll get like 16, 20 in one game. Against all bet against smaller teams. Like Toronto Raptors have like nobody over 6'8". Like everybody's like 6'8".
Hurdle.
Well, he was hurt though.
Was he hurt in this game?
No. But I'm saying like all season. So like I don't know exactly when Pirtle came back.
I'm looking at it right now. Olynyk was their starting big.
Okay, so Kellyo was their big. All right.
Yeah, Kellyo and Boucher and Mogul. Like, yeah.
Ugh.
That was it.
All right. So he had 16 rebounds against the Raptors. All right. Against the Pelicans, against one Yves Missi, he had 9. They're also very small. Missi's their biggest guy.
Yeah.
We've talked about Tice. He's a shell of him former self. 7 against Sacramento against Demonis. 6 rebounds against Golden State. 3 against Dallas. He goes through like these waves of like a lot of rebounds. He doesn't like consistently get a lot. I think that's why his numbers are so surprising to me. But apparently he does average 7.7 rebounds per game. Shocking. Jalen Wells continues his torrid pace. 12 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, almost 2 assists. Shocked?
Am I shocked that he's averaging that, or am I shocked that he's 3?
Are you shocked that he's averaging that?
I mean, I guess if you told me that beginning of the season, yeah, I'd be a little bit shocked.
So I didn't even scout Jalen Wells much. I saw one game of his because someone mentioned him, or I saw him on somebody's list at the end of the year. In the one game I watched, I was not impressed. So this is a good lesson for why we watch as many games as we can.
Mm-hmm.
At least 3 to 5 games before you form an opinion. Because you may miss some things. They may have had a bad game. Who knows? But apparently I was clearly wrong on Jalen Wells because he's been terrific in the value at number 39 in the draft.
Memphis they do a good job with their scouting department.
I have to agree. They
do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yves Missi comes in at number 2. He's been at number 1 a lot this year for good reason. 9.5 points per game, 8.5 boards per game, 1.5 blocks. And as we talked about earlier, he facilitates almost an assist and a half per game. I want to read what Steve wrote here. Steel sharpens steel, as Missi sees it when asked about his selection as the West's top rookie for December. Of facing the league's best centers, the Pelicans big man said, obviously, playing these guys is amazing. Those are the top of the top. You're playing the best players in the world. Having that kind of experience against them is beneficial. Missi leads all rookies in rebounding, grabs 3.8 boards at the offensive end, and 55.4 is just a tick below Zach Edey among rookies in field goal percentage.
Yeah.
Where's Kello Ware?
Where is where? No, I mean, you and I talked about it on Tuesday. Like, we were going over, 7 footers, 6'11", or up in terms of just rebounding percentage. And Missi was like in the top 7 or 8 in offensive rebounding percentage. Or it was something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, he's a monster on the offensive glass. And again, that's the motor.
That you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head. That dude has a motor that doesn't quit, and he is competitive on the boards. Like, he wants the boards. He wants the block shots. Like, he goes for it. Somebody made a really funny comment about the way he runs. They said the way he runs is that he runs like Naruto from the anime comics.
Man. I'm never going to be able to unsee that.
It's so funny, dude, because he does.
A little bit.
At number 1, Alex Sarr for the Washington Wizards. Surprise number 1. 11.7 points per game, 6.5 rebounds per game, 1.6 blocks per game, and getting better every single night he steps on the floor. Were you shocked that he's the number 1 on Steve's list?
I was a little bit shocked, but I know he has been shooting the ball better lately. And so I think, like, just based on that alone, I mean, I'm just looking at it now. He was 0 for 5 against Houston from deep in his most recent outing, 1 of 12. But, like, I'm just trying to filter some stats here. Over his previous 10 games, he was shooting 46% from deep on 4.8 attempts per game.
Yep.
Which made up, just quick math in my head, roughly 35 to 40-ish, maybe a little bit more percent of his attempts.
Absolutely.
So, like, he's shooting the ball better outside of his most recent outing. And obviously with the stuff that he can do defensively, I know you and I have talked about it. We have questions about his rebounding to a certain extent, or at least, like, when he's switched on the perimeter, when certain guys are your low men and you're trying to fight on the glass a little bit, they puts him in a little bit of a compromised position. But no, he's been really good. He's been really good for them. And I think, like, his usage is just continuing to grow as time goes on, like his usage with the ball in his hands, I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know that for certain, but it just feels like I have watched a couple of his games recently.
Right.
Or at least I've had it on, and I've noticed, like, it feels like he's being utilized more offensively.
No, it does. And it seems like he's more comfortable with the ball in his hands as well.
Mm-hmm.
And his shot has looked a lot better. But the thing that I really like about him in the last 5 games, if you read off his rebounding totals. Against Washington, he had 4. I'm sorry, he is from Washington. Against the Knicks, he had 4. Against Chicago, he had 10. Against Messi and the Pelicans, he had 7. They played the Pelicans again, he had 11. And then against Houston, he had 9. So even though he's been shooting the ball well and he's been doing more offensively, it has not affected his willingness and his effort on the glass. Before we continue, big shout out to Stephen Fine, man. He's been on this channel, on our live streams all the time. I really appreciate you. Be like Stephen, show up, show out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Another big thing too, on our Keyshawn Hall video, Stephen had asked me, is Keyshawn Hall really 250 pounds? Because he doesn't look like it. I said he's super strong and sturdy. Nobody can move him. It must be right. Well, what we presume is Keyshawn Hall commented on Stephen's post and said, I'm actually 220 pounds. So Keyshawn Hall corrected the record on Stephen's post. So big shout out to you. Thanks for getting that response out of him. Hey, what's up, Miami Heat beat? Or team beat, man, team to beat Heat. Let's go. Sports, he says. Yes, sports. Yes, hooray, sports. But we're going to pivot from the NBA and the rookies in the NBA. Steve had actually, before we pivot, Steve did the funniest thing. He mentioned 2 players that haven't played really any NBA minutes. Not many. They played some, but not many. First, he references Reed Shepherd's like 49-point game in the G League.
Did happen.
Which he's very talented, and at that level of basketball, we kind of figured that's what would happen.
That's what you got to do, man.
You do. You got to show the people you're too good for that league, and you deserve minutes with the big club. Tyler Kolek, he references him again. He only plays he played like 5 minutes for the Knicks. So I thought that was really funny. But let's move on. So a big thing in college basketball that nobody is talking about is Mississippi State. Mississippi State's defense, if you have not seen Mississippi State, it is stifling, absolutely stifling. I'm going to talk about them. We have a couple of more comments I want to get to in our chat. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe out there. Team to Beat Heat says, I don't like to watch college, but I like watching my guys, Matt and Adele. You guys both need to hop on the pod for an episode. Hey,
yeah, it's Amir, man. Shout out Amir.
Oh, I know who that guy is. Fellow native Pennsylvanian. For sure. Yeah, we'll have to do a pod or something like that, Amir. We'll get together, man. But yeah, man. So let's talk Mississippi State and their stifling defense. What are your thoughts on Mississippi State?
Well, it's just the ball pressure. The ball pressure is crazy. Like you watch it, like Jans has those dudes flying around the floor, like literally.
Right.
Like I think I referenced that, but I don't know if it was the last pod we did or a couple pod. Like you watch them and the way they apply pressure at the point of attack, the way they're able to force turnovers, their rotations are always on point.
Right.
You just look at like their scoring outputs that they're allowing teams, like 64 points against a good Vanderbilt offense.
Yes.
50 points to South Carolina. They allowed 66 a few games ago to Memphis, which again we've briefly touched upon them with like Haggerty and some of the guys that they have over there.
Right.
66 points. Central Michigan 59, McNeese 63. Like the amount of like the level of defense that they play consistently is like it's a high level. Like I'm just looking at Ken Palm right now, 25th in defense. They in so far in conference play. I know it's a very small sample, but they have the number 1, adjusted defensive rating.
Right.
8th in the country in steal rate, 32nd in block rate, 40th in 2-point percentage allowed, 45th in turnover percentage. Like this is again, like it's not the best defense in the country by any means, but just you watch them play and like they're doing it with dudes with Josh Hubbard, who's 5'11" at the point of attack. Like he's not a big guy.
Right.
They have some other guys like with Cameron Matthews, Cujo. Like they have like some bigger wings that they use to make up for that.
Yeah.
but you just look like their level of activity is pretty crazy. And like it's not like the best in the country. Because it's not like, the Houston teams that you saw for years or that they're still doing now. Like Iowa State's another very active one. Tennessee, Duke. You just go on down the list. Like Kansas has a pretty good defense. Michigan, but you just look at the activity, and is this? I'm trying to remember. Is this Jan's second? No, it's his third year.
It's his third year.
And they've been one of the better defensive teams in the country every single season. Like they've been a top 25 defense every single season.
Absolutely.
I think the culture that he's built there he's done a really good job with that.
No doubt about it, man. And when we talk about ball pressure, I know that you can't always go to turnovers to tell the story, but if you look at the game log and we look at, the turnovers that are not just the turnovers, I mean the points, right? The total number of points they score. I want to read these off to you. 60, 66, 59, 73, 79, 58. Teams aren't really scoring over 80 points ever against them, like maybe once or twice on the entire season. Most of the time, they're in the 60s and 50s. That's just incredible defensive ball pressure. And it's not like they have an overwhelming abundance of first-round NBA talent on those rosters. They're just an outstanding, well-coached, plays really, really hard basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
Amir says, tell me about the Wolfpack and the Fresno State Bulldogs.
No, I'm not. Nevada State. Fresno State really stinks. Nevada stinks. It's not good.
Oh, the Nevada bias is not strong.
They've lost 4 straight games, and Nevada does play Fresno on Saturday.
Uh-oh. Who wins that one, Matt?
Nevada's going to win that. If Nevada doesn't win that,
the Nevada bias is back, baby!
It's not bias when a mid-team and a bad team. You pick the mid-team to beat the bad team, but...
So it's not quite a mid-off.
No.
All right, let's get back to some of this college basketball stuff. You had a mock draft.
Yeah.
You wanted to share.
Yeah, well, Sam Vecenie, I have so much respect for Sam and what he does over at the Athletic.
Mm-hmm.
His end of year reports on these guys, that's always crazy. He pours like a bajillion words into some of these guys, but he released a mock today. I don't know. Just want to check and see when his previous mock was. Because I know he did a big board. I'm just scrolling down. It doesn't look like he's done a mock in a while. His most recent mock, at least according to this, if I'm seeing this correctly, was in early October.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a few months since he did a mock, but he released a mock today. Very plugged in with different scouts and evaluators across the country from different teams.
Right.
And so I found some of this interesting. Like I'm surfacing through it. Like team needs, he specifies that team needs aren't taken into account.
Okay, so
the draft order is based on the team record as of January.
Well, hold on. Let me set the stage for the audience then, what you mean. So team need isn't taken into account. So for example, if I need a point guard, that doesn't matter. He's going strictly by talent.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least that's how I'm reading it as.
Okay. What was the other thing?
It's just that the draft order was based on team record as of January 5th, so it's not.
Copy that.
Like it's a couple days old.
Right.
And some team may have won a game or whatever the case is.
All good.
And so just reading it off the list, he has Cooper Flag going 1 to New Orleans.
Shocking.
Yeah, shocking. Although he did specify that he mentions that there is a conversation at 1, but more people have leaned, at least that he's talked to, have leaned with Flag than they would with Harper. But he says he specifies that Flag is consistently the name that I get more often than Harper. But there is says the real conversation. So I do find that interesting, and that's not something that's necessarily surprising to me, even though I still have Flag at 1 too.
You could have I could make a conversation about it. It doesn't mean I'd ever pull the trigger on anybody other than Cooper Flag at number 1.
Correct. He has the Wizards going with Harper at 2.
Makes sense.
He has Ace Bailey going at.
Oh, it makes sense because position of need doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'm just going to read some of these off quickly. Like, he has Ace Bailey going 3 to Toronto. He has Yakachonis going 4 to Charlotte. He has Edgecombe going 5 to Utah, which I thought was interesting. He has Asa Newell, your guy, going to Portland at 6. 7, he has Jaeger Demeen going to Brooklyn. 8, he has Lee McNeely going to Sacramento.
What? Wait. I know you want to run Liam McNeely at 8.
He does have Liam going 8.
You know, there's some names you haven't even read off yet.
Oh, trust me. No, trust me. You get to later in the first round, there's some names where you're just like, I didn't expect you would fall that far. But that's the fun of mock drafts. Cow. That's the beauty of mock drafts.
Let me put together a good week of college basketball. He'd have me at number 3 overall.
He has Kneppel going 9 to Oklahoma City, which if they get Kneppel, it's just like
unbelievable. Yeah, that'd be unreal, dude.
He has Trey Johnson 10 to Detroit. Sarif 11 to San Antonio.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Fears 12 to Houston.
That's high for Fears too.
I'm just gonna skip a couple of these names. There was one that surprised me a lot. He had Cam Jones going 19 to Utah. I think that would be good for him.
It would.
Colin Murray Boyles going 20 to Oklahoma City too.
But this is what doesn't make any sense. I know Derek Queen is below him. I know they put Derek Queen below Boyles.
No.
No, he didn't?
No.
Where's Queen?
15 at Indiana.
Okay. I'll accept that, because when people put Boyles ahead of Queen, it makes me crazy. Because there's no universe where anybody's taking Boyles over Queen. Nobody.
This is where there's a couple names that in the 20s that is interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
He has Boogie Flan going 22 to Orlando. That feels low for Boogie.
Boogie going at 22.
Yeah.
Read me some of the names above him.
Jace Richardson going 21 to Atlanta.
All right. Okay, I've heard enough. I
already mentioned Cam Jones. He has Noah Penda going 18 to Brooklyn. 17 Sorber to San Antonio. I have yet to watch Sorber, but I hear a lot of good stuff about him. I want to lock in on a couple of his games before I get honestly a true opinion. But I have heard a lot of good things about him.
So I've watched Sorber. I didn't get to watch a ton of him, but I did watch one game, and he's an old school big, dude. He's an old school big, but he's got a nice mid-range jump shot, and he will block shots. So I like him, but just you got to know what you're getting. He's very, very Zach Edey-like, or should I say Zach Edey-light, because he's much smaller than Zach Edey. But he's a traditional footwork post player that can hit mid-range jumpers. I don't know if that does anything for you. You still there, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to process it. I was because again, I want to
see him,
watch it. Yeah, I want to see it.
I got you.
And then the other one that surprised me was he had Malawatch in the 20s.
Wow, that low.
Yeah. He did specify that he desperately needs to be more impactful offensively.
which
Like that
we've
was
talked
something
about.
that's almost what he wrote word for word.
We literally
Um,
talked about that the
and
last
so it's like,
podcast.
yeah, and so like I see that he had, just to give you an idea, he had him going 25 to Brooklyn.
Gotcha.
So Brooklyn has like 3 or 4 first round picks. Is that right?
I would have to look it up. I'm not 100% sure. Let me ask you a
18,
question.
25. I want to say they had another one that we just read off. What were you gonna ask?
Well, there's 2 players I want to know where they went. Where did Ian Jackson go, and where did LeBaron Philon go?
Philon was 16 to the Thunder.
Okay.
They also have a bunch of picks. And then Jackson was, I think, 29.
Wow.
29 to the Clippers.
Sign me up.
But he says arguably no player has been hotter in college hoops than Jackson. That's what he prefaced it with.
But yet he's 20 years old and goes almost at the end of the first round? I don't know about that one, buddy.
Again, when mock drafts it's so interesting, and it's so like, and not even just mock drafts, this drafts in general. Like, right. I know you and I'm going to say this right now. You and I are on draft night are going to be losing our absolute ever-living minds because there's going to be players that fall out of like the top 20 that shouldn't be out of the top 20.
And Kalkbrenner goes in the top 20?
Yeah, he actually has Kalkbrenner, I think, going 30.
Oh man, that's funny, dude. That's
he
really
has Neat
funny.
Going 33. Adu Thiera going 35. Just some names that we've talked about before. Danny Wolf going 43 to the Thunder. Dude, again, the Thunder can't keep getting away with this.
Dude, if they get Danny Wolf, a big that can stretch the floor,
there's no way they're going to have that many picks. There's no way they're going to keep all their. There's just not a chance. There's not a chance.
You want to hear something?
They can't afford to do. Like, who are they cutting? Who are they trading? Like,
I have no idea, dude. I mean, they've got so much draft capital, it's unreal. It's really funny looking at Ryan Kalkbrenner on Tankathon. You know how Tankathon does the green pluses and then the red minuses next to like attributes and stats, strengths and weaknesses. If you look at draft age for Kalkbrenner, it just keeps going. There's like 4 red minuses. He's like 24 when he gets drafted. He's gonna be like 24 years old. Oh man, that's funny.
Again, I just don't like watching him move. Great college player.
They have him 39th on Tankathon's big board.
That's fine. I could see that from him.
Yeah, he's a second rounder, dude. For sure. Second rounder. Anyway.
Someone's going to take a chance on him as to be like a backup big.
Yes. A backup big that moves like a glacier. I mean, what? Who said that? Wasn't me. That was Zach Edey.
He moves better than Zach does, but that's a low bar.
How dare you disrespect the great Zach Edey and his fluid movement? He is a fluid dinosaur. No? Well, let's wrap it up on a serious note and close out today's show. Let the people know where they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work, Matt.
You can find me at mph_824_ on Twitter. You can find me vendettasportsmedia.com, mountainwestconnection.com, hothoops.com, as well as playback.tv/5RSN. Yeah, man, I'm doing a lot of different stuff for a lot of different people.
Absolutely. There was actually one other thing I wanted to talk about. I forgot to get your opinion on it. You have been watching, which I haven't. I have not had an opportunity to watch VJ Edgecombe since early in the season. I watched him early in the season for Baylor, for the Baylor Bears. Tell the people what you've been seeing from VJ Edgecombe.
To me, it's still... He looks more like it feels like, to me at least. I watched most of his game against Iowa State, which was not a good game from him, just from an efficiency standpoint. He was 1 of 9. He was good defensively.
Right. Seems to be coming his MO.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, like to me, like something that he's one of the better I mean, you've been doing this longer than me, but he's been one of the better defensive guards that I've evaluated like ever. In the
Wow.
sense that like he whenever he's at the point of attack, like I know the foul numbers sometimes like he will pick up some fouls during a game, but to me like he's so instinctually sound
Right.
defensively. Like to me, whenever a guy tries to take him off the dribble, he's always 1 or 2 steps ahead of him just from like beat him to the spot.
Right.
And that's something that I like a lot when I'm like looking at like how good are you relative to the rest of your class. Like to me, I think that's one of my favorite traits of his. Just and he doesn't get pushed off his spot. Like he's so good. He just steers dudes in directions when he's
Yeah.
on the ball and they're trying to blow past him. Like, and it's not backwards. Like he's not going backwards on these guys. Like to me, him being 6'5", 180, it feels like he's incredibly strong in his core.
Right.
To where he just doesn't get pushed off his spot. He doesn't use his hand. Like he'll obviously use his hands to swipe down. He's an excellent, rim protector. And he does a good job like in the passing lanes and whatnot, but he doesn't use his hands at the point of attack to where like he's going to pick up those cheap fouls.
Yeah.
Trying to be overly physical at the point of attack. No, he just uses his body.
Yeah,
and so
he's a freak athlete. He's a freak athlete.
Right. And I think that he uses that to his advantage.
Right.
I think offensively, like to me, he looks more comfortable with the ball in his hands. Like you can see him making slow but steady strides in that department. Like I think the biggest question that I had with him earlier in the season was like his efficiency and his comfort, how comfortable he looked against some of these better programs. Like, yeah, he can do, whatever he wants to against, Tarleton State, but is he actually going to be doing it when Big 12 play comes? And again, like I just said, he was very inconsistent, not very good against Iowa State.
Right.
I haven't watched his Utah game, but I knew he did a bunch of like really good stuff, or at least I've seen people on the timeline say like he did a lot of good stuff in that game.
Right.
But like I want to go back and watch it, but it feels like to me just from like where I saw him against Tennessee and then like St. John's, like, or maybe just really the Tennessee game where like they would use him sporadically on the ball, but it feels like to me they're at least running actions through him a little bit more. From what I've seen recently. Like I haven't gotten through all of it yet, but I did watch a little bit of his game against Cincinnati.
His points per game is definitely going up, and his 3-point percentage has been.
It feels like they're using him more offensively. Again, it's still not probably where you want it to be at. But like you see some flashes, I think. And like the thing that I also want to see from him is like he doesn't really have much of a left hand yet.
Right.
And I think that could come back and, bite him in certain points. But again, like he's still, how old is he? 18, 19 years old? Like he's still young.
Oh, he's super young, man.
Yeah, he's still a really young player. And so like a team is going to take a shot on him in the top 7 or 8, which is going to be perfectly fine. Like it's going to be justifiable.
Right.
And then obviously I hope he's in a good enough context where they're able to develop his game offensively. Like, because the shot doesn't look bad. He's got a high release.
He'll be 19 when he's drafted. He'll almost be 20, but he'll still be 19 when he's drafted.
Right. Like, I think, and again, like, you and I have talked about it before, like, I trust Scott Drew.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think he's in a well-coached structure, and I'm just very fascinated by this is something that I want to track more with him is, like, okay, how is he being utilized? Like, it feels like they're running a little bit more stuff through him. I could be totally off base by saying that, but just from where I saw him in the beginning of the season against some of these teams versus where I'm at now, like,
yeah,
he's doing a solid job. He's doing a solid job, and I don't know, again, like I still don't know if he's a top 5 pick, but I wouldn't be surprised.
In this draft, that's going to be tough too, because there's a lot of really good talent at the top of this draft. I'm going to have to catch a Baylor game. So the next Baylor game that's on, I will definitely make sure that I watch that and put him in the list of breakdowns, because I wanted to wait until later in the season to do a breakdown on him, because I knew he was going to develop a lot from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. So I'm glad to hear that development's already underway, and those are all encouraging and positive signs. for a guy that's as explosive as anybody in the draft in terms of athleticism. So that's really cool. And, with that, we're going to wrap up the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can find me, Digital Adele, anywhere social media is found. So if that's on Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever have you, you can find me under Digital Adele. For the Hoops Profile Beyond the Backboard podcast, we are out of here. We'll see you next time.